Good stuff. What's number 3 that we have today?
Number three, Ruiz v. U.S. Attorney General out of the 11th Circuit. Because, like, if the 11th is going to do something non-citizen friendly, I gotta talk about it. Also, congratulations to recent 11th Circuit appointee Judge Abudu. Comes from Southern Poverty Law Center, and before that, ACLU. So, it's quite the appointment in the 11th Circuit. Although a bit frustrating as well that Judge Martin made that seat vacant, not by taking senior status, but by retiring, which means that, progressive judges only get one replacement on the 11th rather than two, as all of the Trump replacements did during the Trump years. They all took senior status and then got replaced below. But Judge Abudu will be fantastic on the 11th. Anyway, she's not on this decision. This is about what is the definition of extreme cruelty for the Violence Against Women Act. And that is something that there is a dearth of case law on. Everybody assumes that you got to be beaten physically and it's got to be this terrible thing. And that's not the case. VAWA is for, domestic violence or extreme cruelty. And what is extreme cruelty? Well, it's not domestic violence, right? It's not. It's something else. And here, the 11th Circuit was very clear and expansive about what it is. And before I define it, just what happens to Miss Ruiz. Essentially, she marries, I think he's a U.S. citizen or an LPR. I can't remember. He's got to be one of them. I think he's a U.S. citizen. And she gets breast cancer. And then he turns into a complete prick and, says if she has to get a mastectomy, she's no longer a woman, and, forces her to look at herself in the mirror, and then, divorces her when she gets a mastectomy to save her life. It's just terrible. And the 11th Circuit is very clear. Then, took $2,500 from their joint bank account, just, treating her horribly. She
How is that
suffers
VAWA case
PTSD.
not approved? That one's a good one. That VAWA case wasn't approved by USCIS in the first place.
Well, it's immigration court. Immigration judge and the BIA deny it. And they all are essentially saying, well, you weren't physically harmed, so that's not VAWA. That's not, I guess it was, I think it was VAWA cancellation of removal,
Okay.
which is very favorable. It only requires 3 years rather than the 10 years continuous physical presence, and service of an NTA doesn't stop the accrual of the years, and there's all this other stuff. But either way, she didn't suffer physical harm. We all agree, although she was grabbed by the arm. But she clearly suffered psychological abuse. And you don't have to be, it's not hard to understand that is traumatizing stuff.
Yeah.
And it was all corroborated. It's not like nobody believed that this happened to her. And so here's the 11th Circuit overturning the IJ and the BIA on this, saying, no, physical harm is not interpreted required for the VAWA, and extreme cruelty means something else. And here's the quote. It includes both physical and mental abuse, and it's a term of art in the family law context. So take all of, and I've done this before, take all of the family law state court decisions about what is extreme cruelty when there's divorce or disputes over who's going to have child custody, bring that in to explain what extreme cruelty is. Mental suffering qualifies, quote, acts or omissions of such character as to destroy peace of mind or impair bodily or mental health, or that destroy the objects of matrimony, end quote. That means whatever you want it to mean. That extreme cruelty, right? I mean, a spouse who is destroying the marriage through cruelty. That seems to qualify. This Ruiz case opens the door in the 11th Circuit to say what really, I think, what should have always been the law, but there just isn't so much citation, that you don't need physical harm. You just need an LPR or U.S. citizen spouse being an asshole.
Yeah.
In an extreme manner.
Interesting. You would have thought that would have been a given, but I think there's some case law for it now that can be used more and more around.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The VAWA's the point of VAWA, and I think everyone would agree, is so non-citizens don't have to stay in marriages that are abusive just because they're scared of their immigration status. And so why would there be a distinction between physical harm and terrible mental suffering?
I mean, I've had adjustment cases where the spouse comes to me and say, tell me they're abusive. I'm like, huh? Like, and really I-751 cases a lot, and they just stick in that relationship. It's why I hate the I-751 so much, both conditions, because it causes so many people to be in terrible relationships because they're worried about losing status, even though it has the VAWA kind of waivers for it. They
Yeah,
just
you can file a unilateral 751,
yeah,
but
but
then you got
they
to meet
don't.
that standard. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're afraid. They don't want. And the good
Yeah.
thing, if you're approved on that, you can file for citizenship with 3 years too, instead of waiting 5 years. But they just don't want to risk it. So it's just that this whole system, the abuse stuff is ridiculous. But I'm glad they're fine tuning it.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it's there, right?
Mm.
Like that's not at least the congressional recognition, and here are the circuits and the agency finally coming around. Like extreme cruelty is in the statute. That's got to mean something.
Yeah,
It clearly doesn't require physical abuse, or else they would have just stopped it at the first phrase.
yeah.